Hello and welcome to my meditation. My name is Debra Baker and I'm so glad that you've joined me today. I feel so humbled that anyone tunes in and grateful that I might perhaps have something to share that will help someone else, to try to be of maximum service to God and my fellow human beings. Let's begin with our 3 really deep breaths. Breathing, filling up our lungs, holding it for a second, and then releasing anything that no longer serves us. And one more time, fill up all 5 lobes of your lungs, all the way up, a little more, and hold it for a second. Let it go. And then one more time, taking the deepest breath you've taken all day, all the way down into your gut. And letting go. I hope that the weather is still beautiful where you are. It is beautiful here in Kansas in October. October is just such a beautiful month. Almost as good as June, but not quite. So let's begin by relaxing our bodies. Imagine, or I'm asking, if you have any stress and tension in your head, neck, and shoulders, maybe you roll your head around, or you pull your shoulders up to your ears, or pull them back down, stretch more. I like to do this. I feel like it really helps it stretch out back and forward. If you feel it in your upper back, pull your shoulder blades back, pull forward, releasing more of your shoulders. If it's in your chest or your belly, just breathe into it. Maybe stretch forward and stretch back in your belly. If it's down in your lower midsection or your lower back, hips, lower torso, kind of maybe curl your knees forward, stretch back a little bit. If it's in your hands, pull your hands together tightly and then release them. Same way with your arms. Stretch your arms out a little bit. Pull your toes toward your knees. Maybe point them. Allow your legs to relax. And what you've just done is paid attention to different parts of your body and increase the blood flow. So last week we talked about feeling the oneness with God and being one with all that is. And my directions this week are just to experience God, the I am presence. So let's begin by thinking about the God of your childhood. If you had a God that you believed in when you were a child, just think about what did it mean. I think for me, there was enough messages around me that I kind of thought that maybe God was critical, condemning. I was taught you had to ask forgiveness of God, and it was a big deal. The whole forgiveness thing, the confession thing, all that. And then as I got older, I began to see God as love, and I just welcome you to think about what you believe God to be now. And isn't it funny? I talk about how the sun finds me, and the sun's coming through the fence to find me. It makes you feel kind of special. So, who or what is God? But more importantly, how do we experience God? How do we experience that, the power, the one presence and the one power? And so I'll have some quiet time for us to kind of ponder how our concept of God has changed from when we were children to now. And maybe it hasn't changed, and that's okay. Your concept of God, who and what you know God to be, is what's important. Because that's your experience. And I'm not here to tell you anything about it, to have any judgment of your experience. I'm here to offer you a few moments where we can be together. And I guess share a little bit of my experience. So my concept of God has changed my whole life, and I invite it to continue to change. My understanding of God right now is that it is the force of the universe. It is the presence in the one power moving in, through, and as everything and everyone. And yet we are living these human lives where we have free will, which means we get to make choices to go with the flow, G-O-D, good orderly direction, or resist it. So imagine, I'm presuming that you do believe in a God, or you wouldn't be tuning into this meditation, but if you don't, that's cool too. But if you did believe, how do you pray? My sense of prayer is about talking to God, having a communication, conscious contact. And my sense of meditation, which is what we are doing, is about listening. And prayer can be speaking and listening as well. So I invite you to think about answered prayer. And I think sometimes the prayers that are answered are the ones that we don't even form a complete idea of in our heads. I know that my husband is answered prayer to me, and I don't know that I specifically, I wanted to be in a relationship, and I wanted someone who would love me for me, but I don't know how much I asked for it. But God knows what we need. And I think there is validity in both asking for what we need and want, and also trusting that the infinite knows what we need and want. So I invite you to think about prayers that have been answered. I can think of what I've heard called foxhole prayers, where it seemed like the car was running on empty. Somehow or other I made it to the gas station. Silly prayers and serious prayers, and I would encourage you never to think that your prayers are insignificant. The infinite is moving in, through, and as you. It is in every cell of your being. So how could any prayer you have be insignificant or unimportant to God? It is all working together for our highest good. I truly believe that God, the force of the universe, the one presence, the one power, all the phrases and names that I use to describe God, is much bigger than any of the phrases, any of the words. I think it's bigger than any human can grasp. We are having this experience through our human minds. So let's settle in and ask God, or the infinite, or whatever you call it, to be real to us, right here, right now. It's funny, when I said that, Daisy came over and was hanging out with me for a second. God, let us experience you right now. It's not about anything, any preconceived notions. I'm going to allow a little time of silence, or as close to silence as we can get here in my backyard. Some sweet nature sounds, some children's voices. And let's just have a moment of me not talking, of my not talking, so that we can have our experience. God, I invite you to give me an experience of you. I invite an experience of the infinite to take place right here, right now. I invite you to think in the week ahead about how and when and where you experience the presence of God. Whether it is in the smile of a stranger, someone allowing you into traffic, my husband made me soup today, and it was soup that I was going to make, and he just got out the pot and said, "Now, what is it you want to put in here?" And he just did it. It was lovely. And maybe in bigger things, like you are looking for a job or a relationship or a resolution or a sum of money, or who knows, your car to keep working, the hurricane to pass by you, which happened a couple weeks ago, for you to stay safe. It can happen in huge ways. Unexpected, unexplainable healings. When people work the 12 steps, the 12th step is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And my first spiritual awakening, I was telling the Christmas story to my daughter, my oldest daughter, and telling her about how the Christmas was for her. That the Jesus being born, which was very important to me back then, was for her, that he came for her. And I had this moment where I realized it wasn't just for her, it was for me too. So whether you're a Christian or not, and whether that's your belief system, it was my first deep spiritual awakening while working the 12 steps. I had had many before and have had many since. I am just amazed every time that I read for a client, and I've been doing this for more than 30 years, and it still amazes me when their deceased loved ones come and speak through me and use words that they use and phrases, and sometimes even laugh like they do. I've done automatic writing, which came through in people's handwriting. Like, God, I don't know how you do this, but I'm willing to be the vessel. I want to just be love to anybody who needs it, and even people who think they don't. So I invite you in this next week to look for God everywhere, because what we look for, we find, and what we focus on increases. So when you look for the presence of God everywhere, it was so sweet. We had a friend who his wife was going through a health crisis, and he was really crabby, and my husband had this insight. He said, yeah, he's being nasty, but it's probably because he's so scared. And that insight gave us both just this huge measure of compassion toward him. Instead of being upset ourselves and adding to the angst, we could hold him in our hearts with love and compassion. So I invite you to just listen. And if you can hear that, as soon as I said that, the breeze kicked up in the trees, and you could, in the backyard, and you could hear it in the leaves. Listen for God everywhere. Look for God everywhere. Taste God in that first cup of coffee. Experience God with all of your senses and with your heart and soul. It is everywhere present. It is the biggest part of you. The divine presence is you. It's moving in, through, and as you. And you are whole and perfect and beautiful exactly as you are. Sending you oodles of unconditional love and acceptance. The divine in me honors and recognizes the divine in you and celebrates it. Namaste.